Weight loss solutions are not one size fits all. Hers makes it simpler to get started and stick with a weight loss plan, backed by expert-guided online care that puts your weight loss goals first. These include oral medication kits or compounded GLP-1 injections. Through Hers, pricing for oral medication kits start at just $69 a month for a 10-month plan when paid in full upfront. No hidden fees, no membership fees. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hers brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. Reach your weight loss goals with help through Hers. Get started at forhers.com/4u to access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss plans. That's forhers.com/4u, forhers.com/4u. Paid for by Hims and Hers Health. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions at forhers.com apply.
You are about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. So there's a story that's been kind of frightening parents that I just want to, talk a little bit about. And there's some teaching points from this case. And it's very, very tragic. But I believe 8-year-old boy out of Indiana, little Liam Dahlberg, had a headache. Came home from school last month with a headache. The next day, he died. And he had something called Haemophilus influenza. Now, Haemophilus influenza is not the flu, it's a bacteria. And it's a bacteria kids are vaccinated against. But he was diagnosed with this bacteria that caused Haemophilus influenza, probably meningitis and encephalitis when it goes to the brain and spinal cord. And he ended up passing from it. Now, his parents said he was vaccinated for it. But it took him within a day. Of course, parents in an unbelievable amount of pain. There's a GoFundMe page. But H. flu lives among us, sometimes harmlessly. According to Daily Mail, it can be in the nose and throat of many healthy people. But if you have a weakened immune system, or if you are also battling a viral infection or something else, it could then go into the bloodstream and then attack other organs. And a Haemophilus influenza meningitis is one of the reasons why we vaccinate for that. When parents are like, Daliah, look at all the vaccines we have. We got polio. We got hepatitis. We got tetanus, pertussis, all this. What's H. flu? Well, this is what it is. It's a bacteria that could infect your brain and spinal cord. So we vaccinate kids for it because it was more commonly a killer. And so sadly, this poor little boy didn't make it. And the family isn't sure how he got it. He was fully vaccinated as part of his routine childhood vaccinations. Think you get it 2 months. No, you get it at the 2, 4, 6 months. 95% effective at preventing infections, and he wasn't feeling well. He had a headache. When the headache did not subside, the family took him to the hospital the following morning. They got an MRI, and that's when they found that there was bacteria covering the brain and spinal cord. Damage was so severe that he was declared brain dead. Now, I know many people are like, oh my gosh, my kids, get headaches all the time. Well, this is what I tell parents because, people panic at, when when is the best time to call it and go to a doctor. And so, I like to get a doctor right away. That's just me. And it's because I am a physician. But I can't stand hearing cases like this where, and it might have happened anyway. Sadly, he might have died anyway. But parents will call up telemedicine companies, and to me, their child has Guillain-Barré syndrome where they can't walk, or they have appendicitis, and the parents are like, well, what can I do at home? Give me tips on what I could do at home. Get seen. Well, what if it's nothing? I don't want to go in. What if it's nothing? And so when we have a child with a headache, one of the first things I think about is meningitis. That's just how I was trained. It's not going to be what the average parent thinks. They're like, well, my kid wants to get out of school, or my kid wants to get out of chores, or my kid has sinus pressure. See, we shine a light in their eyes. Sometimes the very first thing we do, we play around with their light. And if they're like, I can't look at the light, we're like, there's some irritation of the brain. We can detect sometimes very, very quickly. In fact, I know if an adult or a child has meningitis before they walk into my office. Oh, yeah, right, Dr. Daliah. No, it's not because I'm good. No, it's not. I'm not saying I'm good. I can tell because they won't get out of the car. If you have meningitis or a severe headache, you don't want to walk. You don't want to bend your neck. So when my staff says your next patient can't come in, I'm like, why not? They said they can't get out of their car. Already I'm thinking meningitis. I mean, unless it's, of course, an ankle or knee or orthopedic issue. So let us do our job. But I understand the average parent doesn't have easy access to a doctor. Or they don't have the money to go to an urgent care or ER. You know, my father never wanted to go and get medical care done. And he's like, I don't want to be in debt. And I go, so you want to be the only one in the cemetery with no debt? I'd rather you be in debt and alive than be debt-free and in the cemetery. And, it's ridiculous. The medical costs are ridiculous. Now, there is a GoFundMe account for Liam. If I find, it says there's a GoFundMe account. I just don't have the link if I find it. But, and I don't think it's the parent's fault at all. The child had a headache, but then it was worse the next day. And what does the average parent do? They'll try some Tylenol. They'll try some Motrin. But you see, for me, I'm the doctor, so I always want to know why they're having a headache. Did they sustain head trauma that they don't remember? And they have a concussion or a bleed? Is it an infection in the brain? Is it eye strain? Is it, a really bad sinusitis? Is it flu? Is it COVID? And so, could something have been done? Maybe. But again, we just don't know what the situation was. It could have been a very mild headache, so the average person doesn't go to the hospital. But by the next day, now it could be he was exposed 2 days prior, and then it started to get to the point where it started a headache, and maybe there were other signs. So my recommendation to you all is when you're in doubt, check it out, because you just never know. And then, why would a fully vaccinated child get that sick? We need to look at the vaccines and make sure they don't need to be updated. 1-877-Doc-Daliah. Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by
Size Science.
Let's face it, guys. We're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's Aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at Aftermath.media. Again, that's Aftermath.media.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So in my dating days, I remember my friends telling me different places where they would have sex. All right. I was very prude. I also worked all the time. Didn't really have a lot of dates. So I didn't get to do a lot of exciting things and have sex in exciting places. But man, some of the places people would be bragging about, I was like, really? Man. Now, how did you make sure the cops wouldn't find you after, how long does it take you? 2 minutes? Now then, but I never thought that somebody would want to try to have sex on the moon. Well, you can't go to the moon. If you want to go there, you got to be an astronaut. You got to work for NASA. You going to the moon you have an easier chance of winning the lottery, let alone being able to have sex on the moon, especially since you have to wear spacesuits. Well, apparently there's the story of a NASA intern who wanted to try to make that happen to the best of their abilities. And what they ended up doing was stealing priceless lunar artifacts and then trying to put them under the bed cover so they could technically say they had sex on the moon. This is what people, and no, this was not a millennial. I think this was a Gen X. So this happened 23 years ago. NASA intern Tad Roberts had a plan to steal 17 pounds of moon rocks and a meteorite from Houston Johnson Space Center. Priceless samples from every Apollo mission, locked into a 600-pound safe and valued at the time of $21 million. He was 24 years old, and this was about 23 years ago, so that would make him right now 47. So yeah, I think he's probably a Gen X. And he was a triple major in physics, geology, geophysics at the University of Utah, which also that's kind of what we would do. We would triple major. Nowadays, people are like, let me just get my one major, take my $100,000 bill from the university and bounce. But back then, we Gen X's, we would just do a lot of majors, I guess, keep majoring. So he had a triple major in physics, geology, and geophysics from the University of Utah. He had a wife he was supporting back in Utah, financially struggling, but he thought this plan was foolproof. How do you major in physics, geology, and geophysics and think that something like this is going to not end up in you getting prison time? So he said he had to find a buyer. With help from his friend, Gordon McWhorter, Roberts connected online with a potential Belgian purchaser willing to pay $1,000 to $5,000 per gram. The buyer grew suspicious and alerted the FBI, who instructed him to keep talking to him while they investigated. So now it turned into a sting operation. Around this time, the suspect met Tiffany Fowler, a 22-year-old NASA intern, conducting stem cell research. So this guy is allegedly cheated on his wife in Utah with now a stem cell researcher at NASA. See, that maybe that's why I didn't get, I was a bio major, didn't really get the guys. I guess if you were into stem cells at the time, maybe that got you some dates. Their friendship quickly became romantic. After 3 weeks, they moved in together. I'm really confused because I thought this guy was married. Roberts then reveals his plan. Fowler agrees to help. They recruited another NASA intern, Shay Sarr, and the trio decided to use their NASA IDs one night to slip into the Johnson Space Center, and then they were able to take the entire safe. They brought it to a hotel. They cracked it open with a power saw, and on July 20th, 2002, which is the 33rd anniversary of the first moon landing, Roberts and Fowler drove to Orlando to meet family members of the Belgian buyer. While waiting, Roberts placed moon tools underneath these moon rocks, underneath the bed covers, later claiming they had sex on the moon rocks. Then they took some of the moon rocks, put them underneath the blanket of the bed. I think the guy said, I never said anything, but I'm sure she could feel it. I don't know, whatever. And they said it was more of a symbol of what they were doing, basically having sex on the moon. It's more uncomfortable than not, but it wasn't about the comfort at that point. It was about the expression. And no one had ever had sex, this has been reported by New York Post, on the moon before. I think we could safely say that. Well, again, their main goal was to sell this stuff, not so much have sex. So they meet this supposed Belgian buyer who did narc them out to the FBI, and the FBI said, just keep talking to him, keep talking to him. And when they went to meet the buyers, they instead were greeted by undercover FBI agents. The moon rocks were recovered from their hotel room. Now they are, quote, virtually useless to the scientific community. And we're being told that what they did and their sexual fiasco destroyed 3 decades of handwritten research notes by the NASA scientists. So Roberts was arrested. He also admitted to stealing dinosaur bones and fossils from the Natural History Museum. They could make a movie of this. And when asked, why would you steal moon rocks? He said he wasn't looking at it like stealing at the time. We weren't going to take this money we were getting from it and go buy a yacht or lots of cars or a big house. We were going to live just like the small kind of lifestyle we were, but fund science that might change the world. Yeah, whatever. You're an idiot. So he was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison, ends up serving 6. Fowler and Sarr each received 180 days of house arrest, 150 hours of community service. There was, and I don't think Roberts and Fowler, even though they had sex on moon rocks, never saw each other again. So why is this making headlines now? I'm intrigued. Is it because the FBI has now, we get to see a lot of these older cases because the FBI is now opening up a lot of older cases? Is it because people have nothing else to write about? But I find this story fascinating in that you have people in the sciences. I always get blown away by these headlines when you see a doctor or a nurse steal somebody's narcotics or somebody, when you go into a field where you obviously have an appreciation of the patient, or in this, geology and physics and geophysics, you have an appreciation of what you're studying, and you understand how important it is, and then you act like some ridiculous mentally ill criminal. And I am blown away at how somebody could have that much education and go through that much work. And I understand college has gotten easier, but I'm sorry, back at the, turn of the century, you to be majoring and all that, you had to obviously understand what the subject matter was. And I still have that naivety that if you're in medicine, you're going to be a good person. If you're in nursing, you aren't going to be there for your own gain. You're there to help people. If you're in the sciences, you're there for science and the betterment of the world. And I don't know why I still am so naive in that. You'll hear people of clergy doing things that they're not supposed to do. And if you are committing yourself to the Lord, why would you be doing these other things on the side? And so I think this just reminds us of what people can do. Now, thank God nobody really got hurt. It's just I didn't realize that a lot of our artifacts that should have never been touched, that should have never had sex on them, should have never been and again, who knows the fragility of it and the what contaminants now you added. Remember, the moon is in an atmosphere that's very different from the Earth. And so our microbes and bacteria, when you store these things, they have to be stored in a pretty scientific bubble so that it doesn't decay and change. Like, I mean, I understand that where somebody had a McDonald's Happy Meal that was sitting out for 20 years and it still looked the same. But you can't add preservatives to these things. You need to store them. Now, I've never necessarily worked with rocks like this, but I have worked in geology labs where these samples have to be protected to such a degree so that the normal elements of Earth and nature don't mess it up. Because I look at us, how we age. Boy, does the wind mess with us. So, it's interesting how people will also be, shall we say, entranced by the idea of having sex in exotic places. I was watching that movie Vacation, the newer one, where apparently having sex on the Four Corners is supposed to be a thing, where you go to Four Corners, America, where it's Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and no, it wouldn't be Wyoming. It would be, why can't I think of it? New Mexico. Yeah. And I guess it's supposed to be a thing to be able to have sex in all four states. Maybe I'm too old for all that, but please don't break the law or do something stupid like these people did. 1-877-Daliah.
Not secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com.
Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. So a question I get a lot from patients is how much safer is eating marijuana through edibles versus smoking it? Well, it's not that much safer. Marijuana has risks all the way around. But we doctors prefer you expose your lungs to fewer pesticides and particulates and matter. So doctors, if they were to be open-minded and embrace edible marijuana with your current regimen for whatever you are being treated for, will oftentimes dissuade you from smoking it. But that doesn't mean you're in the clear. So a study coming from UC San Francisco found that if you did eat edible cannabis, such as gummies, it could have the same impact on cardiovascular risk as smoking it. So this study was published in JAMA Cardiology, the Journal of American Medical Association, the May 28th issue. And it looks at reduced blood vessel function. And it's no surprise that long-term cannabis use has been linked to heart disease. No surprise at all. But people are using these edibles thinking they're like vitamins, especially since our vitamins come as gummies. So people think if you pop a gummy, you're good. No. The study looked at 55 people between the ages of 18 and 50, so younger, who were quote unquote outwardly healthy. They divided these 55 people into three groups. Those who regularly smoked pot, right? Or dope, but marijuana specifically. Those who ate edibles containing the THC or the tetrahydrocannabinol. And those who didn't touch the stuff at all. The cannabis users had been consuming the substance for at least 3 times weekly for a year. On average, the smokers had the habit for 10 years. While, those consuming edibles had been doing so for 5 years. In September 2024, the participants, according to Fox News, underwent testing to determine how well their blood vessels functioned and whether the cells lining the blood vessels were affected. All cannabis users, every one of them that used it, were found to have decreased vascular function compared to those who smoked tobacco. Comparable. I was going to say not worse than those, but comparable. So for those people that go, I don't smoke tobacco, but I smoke pot, it's safer. No, it's not. Their blood vessel function was roughly half compared to those who didn't use cannabis at all. So why is blood vessel function important? Well, because that is linked to heart attack. It's linked to cardiovascular conditions, high blood pressure. The participants who smoked marijuana were also found to have changes in their blood serum that harm cells lining their blood vessels and lymphatic vessels. Now, they did not see that in those who ate cannabis. The researchers also noted that while smoking marijuana and consuming edibles both affect vascular function, they did so for different reasons. They said chronic cannabis smoking and THC ingestion were associated with endothelial dysfunction, impaired functioning of the endothelial cells lining the inside of the blood vessels, similar to what they saw with tobacco smokers. The study enhances the understanding of the potential risks, they say, to vascular health linked to cannabis use and provides more evidence that cannabis is not benign. So this is no surprise. We know that there can be issues. Now, we have to be careful with these studies because people could have a bias, but the idea that us taking this on is completely benign is wrong. And I think the reason why that has happened is because your periodic, once in a blue moon partier that doesn't really ping the radar. But we have a much different world right now. We have a world where people are using it on a regular basis. People you would have never thought. Teenagers. And so we need to understand this more. And I'm honest, guys. I voted in my state to legalize marijuana because I wanted us to be able to study it, because there's a lot of restrictions in terms of studying something that's illegal. I wanted our cops free from having to deal with marijuana related, I had a baggie in my car type of crime. I wanted the cops, free from that. And I saw what was happening with the fentanyl crisis and doctors being blamed for that, and doctors saying, you know what, then I'm not going to write any more pain medication, and people suffering with pain. And so I wanted there to at least be another option for people with pain. Those were the 3 reasons why I voted to legalize it. But I was naive to think that it wouldn't get so pervasive. Well, and this is why I was naive, because I thought that once marijuana got legalized in Nevada, the price point would skyrocket so much because, they were saying, oh, well, we could use these tax dollars for our schools and all that once it got legal, it would be so expensive that, that you really wouldn't see. It's cheaper for kids to get a beer. But no, there were ways for this to get cheaper. And especially since it wasn't the edible market, it was, getting marijuana to smoke. So we have most states are going to be legalizing it anyway, sadly. So now we have no excuse to not study it. And you have people who are consuming a lot of it. Now, I see patients who consume a lot of it because they call up very nauseated. They're like, I just can't stop the nausea. And I ask, how much marijuana do you smoke? And they say, or use. And they go, oh, I don't do much, but just every night. Well, marijuana can give you cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. People with depression and anxiety, how much marijuana are you using? It causes depression and anxiety. People with weight issues can cause weight issues. So these are pretty significant. And so, the smoking of the marijuana always was something that we as doctors, even if marijuana was legalized, we weren't fans of. Even for glaucoma and other things, we recommended a pharmaceutical form like Marinol if you needed, but we didn't want you smoking it because we just don't know what you're getting. We don't know what's on the plant. Now, I'm still of the mindset that we have naturally occurring plants that have infinite medicinal purposes and applications. And I really would like us working with our horticulturists to figure out and our botanists, what we have on our beautiful planet that we could utilize medicinally, because that's what our ancestors did. And they were able to fight a lot of infection and fight a lot of disease. So, the idea that we could use a plant, and there were even studies talking about how marijuana was preventing the COVID virus from latching on. They didn't really make it in the media, and got a lot of attention. But, honestly, doctors were studying everything. They were grabbing at whatever they could to figure out how to save lives. But that doesn't negate the fact that for some people, or many people, this could hurt them. Now, you had me at that, girlfriend who was smoking a bong with her boyfriend while watching a movie and stabbed him 108 times. I believe this happened in California, and she had a lesser sentence because they said she wasn't of sound mind. She went into a psychosis from the marijuana. That's enough to scare me from being around anybody smoking it. The fact that it could trigger a psychosis. Now, could it have been laced with something? Her boyfriend didn't have the same reaction. So if you're dating somebody and you're like, oh, let's get high, you better hope that they have had one hell of a thorough psychological exam, because you don't want them having a psychosis and doing what this girl did. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99-799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99-799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99-799. Again, FREE to 99-799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So, since the COVID pandemic, researchers are finding a huge spike in heart attacks and at-home cardiac deaths, where people have a heart attack at home and die. This is something that we predicted would happen, whether it was from the COVID virus, whether it could be a reaction from the COVID vaccine, or whether it's because people don't go to the doctor anymore and they use telemedicine and they aren't necessarily going in and getting examined. But this is serious and it's frightening. So Medical Express is reporting that at-home heart attacks and cardiac deaths have been on the rise since the COVID-19 pandemic. Even though heart attacks have always been the leading cause of death globally, they're going up. Massachusetts General Brigham Hospital researchers evaluated whether these cardiac trends reflect a true change in the event rates or if they reflect that more people are dying at home rather than in hospitals. The reason why this came up is some people were reporting fewer hospital-related cardiac deaths. Well, if you never make it to the hospital because you die in your sleep or you die at home, the hospital's not going to register it. If somebody is found dead, then authorities send you, I believe, straight to the coroner. So the findings highlight potential shortcomings in cardiac care during and in the years following the height of the pandemic. The study was published in JAMA Network Open, the Journal of American Medical Association. They said lots of reports have shown that there have been fewer heart attacks in hospitals since 2020. But the author, Dr. Jason Wasfy, Director of Outcomes Research at Massachusetts General Hospital Cardiology Division, says something is missing. They said, we now show that if you count for deaths at home, cardiac deaths are going up and have stayed up for years. Today, there are a lot more people having cardiac deaths at home, which also raises the concern that people with heart disease have not been getting the care they need since the pandemic. This is something that I have said for years. So looking at the data, they use data, death certificate data from 127,700 people who died in Massachusetts. They found cardiac deaths exceeded anticipated levels between 2020 and 2023. They looked at data from 2014 to 2019, and the team set up an expected cardiac death rate based on the population. On the rise, they said cardiac deaths were 16% higher than expected in 2020, 17% higher in 21 and 22, and then 6% higher in 2023. Now, there were lower cardiac-related hospital admissions, meaning this was very significant in terms of the numbers going up and in terms of people dying at home. So I have been sounding the alarm on this. I'm very grateful that we have telemedicine companies out there offering care to people on Christmas, nighttime, weekends. I've worked probably every single day since 2019. People need help. People need advice. But what I don't understand is how many of these individuals are only using telemedicine as their doctor. They're not going in and getting an exam. They're calling up saying, I need a refill of my blood pressure medicine. And I'm like, well, how's your circulation? How's your heart? Any murmurs? Any, oh, yeah, I'm fine. I went to a grocery store and I stuck my arm in the thing and I was 120 over 80. Well, 120 over 80 is still kind of high. Okay. We want you under 120 over 80, not too much under. And you need an exam. So risk factors for heart disease are high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol. If there's a family history of heart disease, if you're a male over 40, female over 50, they changed it to male over 45, female over 55. But still, let's just keep it simple. If you're over 40 and you're a dude, get your heart checked. If you're over 50 and you're a woman, get your heart checked. If you smoke, if you drink excessive alcohol, if you're obese, if you have a lot of stress, if you're very short stature, if you yourself have had a previous heart issue, you're at higher risk. Now, I am seeing younger people have high blood pressure, high cholesterol in their 20s. Thank God they're going in, getting seen and getting checked out, but then they're going to telemedicine for the refills. I'm like, who's doing your blood work? Who's examining you? We are training people to not go to the doctor anymore. And how did I pick up a lot of heart disease? I checked everybody's heart. You came in for your cholesterol refill, I'm checking your heart. You came in for your thyroid medicine refill, I checked your heart. Because all these things could check your heart. You have periodontal disease, I'm going to check your heart. You want Viagra, I'm checking your heart. Any sort of erectile dysfunction. If you're having poor blood flow below the waist, you're having poor blood flow above the waist. And so my suspicion for heart disease and my index of suspicion and threshold was very low. And I'm going to assume you have heart disease until proven otherwise. And that's just how I approached it. And we were very, very grateful to not have anybody die on our watch because we made sure everybody who needed to saw a cardiologist. Heart disease is real, and our arteries are clogging. Now, people say, but Dr. Daliah, we're doing better now. We have better interventions. But look at the crap you're eating. I mean, you're eating a lot of fake food. That could be clogging your arteries more. We have diabetes. Diabetes, to me, how I look at diabetes is take your cholesterol number and triple it if you have diabetes. My father's cholesterol wasn't that high. It was a little high. But because he had diabetes, he had a widowmaker, and my mom became a widow. His blood pressure wasn't that bad. His diabetes wasn't that bad. His cholesterol wasn't that bad. But the triad, unfortunately, he died of a massive heart attack, only 62. So I don't want to depress you, but if we're hearing that at-home cardiac deaths are on the rise, that begs the question, who's watching these people? Who's examining them? Why are they at home dying? Now, somebody could say, yeah, but are they 80 years old? I don't have the ages of them, but my guess is they all weren't in their 80s. Massachusetts General, they do some really, really good research, and so I'm glad they shared this in Medical Express, who was reporting it, I'm sure multiple news outlets. But any of those risk factors, get yourself checked out, and I get it. It's not easy to go to a doctor. My primary care doctor is my gynecologist, and I've had a hysterectomy. I need to get my butt in there, but I need to get a primary care physician. Not easy. The average wait time is months. But then start that month process now. Even if you have to do concierge, or as I said, you're trying to get into a medical provider, go to the universities. Those clinics training medical students are always looking for patients. And don't say, oh, but I don't want a medical student taking care of me. I would give anything for a medical student to take care of me if I didn't have anybody to take care of me. And by the way, the medical students have to be thorough. They have to ask the questions. They have to listen. A lot of you tell me your doctor hasn't even put a stethoscope on your chest. You barely see your doctor at all, or your nurse practitioner or PA. Yet when you have a medical student, they get in trouble if they don't see you and ask questions and listen. And then they have to report to their attending or their senior officer or their senior resident. And then they have to come in and look at you. So you're getting 4, sometimes 6 eyes on you. So if you don't have a medical provider, you have to see one. If you have any risk factors for cardiac disease, maybe try to get in with a cardiologist. A lot of insurances now are not as strict about having a referral. And so oftentimes many of you can go straight to a cardiologist. And I know people are saying, but I don't have the money. I don't have the money. Like I told my father, I would rather he be alive and in debt than dead with perfect credit. Well, look, we all owe. We owe on our houses. We owe on our cars. If I later get cosmetic surgery and I really need a lot done, I'm going to be owing the cosmetic surgeon. We are all going to be in debt. Don't let that prevent you from having appropriate health care. And if you are a family member and your loved one is, sleep apnea also is, to me, a cardiac risk factor. If your loved one is in their sleep, right, and not breathing, that's bad. One of the reasons why stroke and heart attacks oftentimes happen early morning is we think that the person is going through night hypoxic, low oxygen. So that stresses the heart, causes the blood pressure spike, and then that risk for heart disease and stroke. So get checked for sleep apnea. 1-877-DOC-DALI. Don't go away.
believe with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA-1. That's 800-JBS-USA-1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA-1 today.